Hey, how you doing? So today I'm going to be talking about a series, not a film. And in the past we've called these things quinterventions, but a friend of mine once said that maybe you need to do something a little different for something that is really amazing. And so this is going to be a quintessential. That's right, I'm all about the shitty Quinn puns. I'm talking about Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. So many of you will remember the Dark Crystal film from the 80s, and that was formative stuff for me. That was a film that I remember watching and being completely transported into this incredible, beautiful world that was just so detailed. And okay, yeah, it's puppets and it was Muppets and it felt a little Jim Henson-y and everything like that. But at the time, and hell, even now, I still love that. I love that Jim Henson vibe. I love that sort of creativity that overcomes any limitations that are put on it. So the film didn't do particularly well back in the day. In fact, it kind of tanked. But I honestly think it's because people weren't ready for really, really big idea fantasy. And the only way that they could really tell it was by using puppets. So now, 30 something odd years later, we're presented with Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, which is on Netflix. It is stunning. Oh my god. Now, I was really trepidatious going into this because there was a very strong possibility that this was going to be something too kiddie or something that felt like it wasn't really true to the spirit of the original, or something that essentially felt kind of cheap and plasticky. But this is none of those things. It is spectacular. This is more along the lines of Game of Thrones than it is Fraggle Rock. This is big, big fantasy. And we're talking multiple tribes of Gelflings. The Skeksis are these terrifying overlords who are now loved by the people because at the moment nobody knows any different. There are different factions, there are different warring parties. There's a political system that makes a lot of sense. There's multiple different groups of Gelfling tribes. So there are some that live underground. There are some that live in sort of the ice areas. There's these ones that live on ships, who are the soothsayers. There is a fully fleshed out world. And the thing that blows me away about this is just how much detail there is in it. And how many, so many Gelflings. So in the original film, there were two. There was Jen and Kira. That was it. And now there are societies full of people. In the Crystal Castle itself, there are, God, must be thousands of different Gelflings who live and work there. There are podlings everywhere. They have their own language. They have so much detail, and the world at every moment is thought out. Like there is something going on in every shot that says that this is a living, breathing, interesting world. And then you go out into the forests, and once again, the stuff that you saw kind of hinted at in the film, the animals, the species, the entire kind of ecosystem is fleshed out more because there's you get to spend more time with it. We meet what in the film was called, Fizzgig, but now you realise that, of course, there are many of them, and they're in fact an entire species of animals, and they have cute fuzzy tummies that you have to pat, and it's just like, oh my god. But then there's also the Nebries, who are these sort of underwater worm things. There is a huge story that is building throughout this series. And it's interesting. It's told through a number of different characters. So there's Rian, who's played by Taron Egerton, who is, I guess, the Jen style character. He's the male lead, whatever. One of my favourite new characters is Deet, who is one of the underground Gelflings, and she is just gorgeous, but also has elements of Kira from the original. Anya Taylor-Joy, who's Bray. All of the female Gelflings, of course, have wings because I'm a girl. Of course I have wings. There's just this huge cast of characters. Eddie Izzard is in there as a soothsayer. The narrator is Sigourney Weaver. It's huge. Like, it's a massive, massive cast. Then you get to the Skeksis themselves, and you've got the Chamberlain, who we all remember as please, please. That guy, it's Simon Pegg, and he's doing absolutely pitch perfect version of the Chamberlain. You got Mark Hamill as the scientist, who is learning to essentially abuse the crystal's power. I think one of my other favourites, hello to Jason Isaacs, Skekso, who's the actual Emperor. He is so good. There is so much going on, and by the time that you get to the end of it, it's still 50 years or so before the Dark Crystal film, and you've suddenly had an entirely different world built that then you get to see reconciled or healed in the final film. And it's interesting because I feel like many prequel series don't work because we already know. We know exactly where the characters are going. We know what the ending is. And here, yes, maybe we do know what the ending is. But there's enough questions about why things are, or why the characters are the way they are, or where the division between the Uru and the Skeksis happen, that you kind of want to know. And you left with a feeling of, I now feel like the film is a capstone, is something that is completing a story, as opposed to something that was a standalone story that we've now added to. And I think that's really, really clever. Louis Leterrier is the director, and people will recognise his name from The Incredible Hulk. And that's not necessarily something that people are going to go, oh yes, I want him to direct my Gelflings. But he does a beautiful job, and he has an eye that is essentially wonderful at showing you that these are characters, they're not just puppets. And there were times in the original film where, you know, the puppets were actually just kids in suits, and you could see them running around, and that was the cheapest way to do it. Very rarely do you see that here. In this, there is the sense that they are always puppets, but they are beautifully done. I will admit there are a few times where you do kind of go, that's a rubber puppet face. But somehow the overarching beauty of it all kind of makes you forget that, because you see so many different Gelflings, and they are so characterful that it's not just another rubber Gelfling face or anything like that. It is another character. And their voice work is so good that you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, I just now buy that character as being completely separate from this character. There's time for nuance in here, and I think that's the thing that I get really excited about. The second episode opens with this really relaxed sequence of a podling just waking up and going about his day. And this is what you get when you have a TV series that gives you time to breathe. Here, there's 8 hours of content, and so you've got time to explore character, you've got time to just show moments, times to let things breathe. And that's really important, because in a 90-minute film that's aimed mostly at kids, it has to barrel along. Here, you get to expand the world. You get to tell a bigger story over a much broader canvas. And I think it's really smart that they've decided to go for a huge canvas, because it is massive. The world of Thra is absolutely huge. It's been 37 years since the original was released. I was so young when I watched that. Oh my God. But it's time to tell a new story, and there have been many abortive attempts. At one point, friends of ours, the Spierig brothers, were trying to do their version of either a Dark Crystal 2 or a prequel or whatever. This is in good hands. This is the right way to do it, and it's really exciting to see something so big and so challenging and so brave on Netflix, and I'm super excited to everybody to see it. August 30, it starts on Netflix worldwide. If you haven't got Netflix, go and get it now, because this is worth getting it for. It's beautiful, and it is Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Please watch it. It is a Quinn essential.